This is the In Focus podcast from The Hindu.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hindus in Focus podcast. I'm Zubeda Hamid, your host for today. It's official now. The number of births in Kerala have hit an all-time low of about 3.9 lakhs per year, a significant drop from the previous average of about 5.5 lakhs per year. This, ironically, has led to a spike in maternal mortality. Not because more mothers are dying, Kerala has an excellent track record with this, but because fewer babies are being born in the state. Kerala has led the demographic transition in South India. It was the first to achieve replacement levels of fertility and now has a total fertility rate of around 1.5. Other South Indian states, including Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, have followed. But what does the declining fertility and falling birth rates actually mean for society in Kerala and by extension for the rest of South India? How rapidly is the senior citizen population growing? Do South Indian states need to increase their fertility rates, and is this even possible? What measures need to be put in place to ensure an active, healthy population of both those working and those who are retired? We discuss these questions and more with Professor Mala Ramanathan from the Achyuta Menon Center for Health Science Studies, Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute for Medical Sciences and Technology, Thiruvananthapuram. Good morning, Professor Mala, and welcome to the Hindus in Focus podcast.
Good morning, and thank you very much for having me on this podcast. The issue is something that is very close to my heart.
Professor, let's start with what's happening in Kerala. The state has now hit an all time low in the number of live births, going down from about 5.5 lakh to less than 4 lakhs now. How does this impact the maternal mortality ratio? What is the scenario at present in Kerala?
You see, Kerala has had the lowest maternal mortality ratio in India for close to a decade or more now. The most recent one puts it at 19 per 100,000 live births. That is what we call the SRS bulletin, that is a sample registration systems bulletin. The next lowest MMR is that of Maharashtra with a reported MMR of 33. In fact, the other South Indian states are a little higher than even Maharashtra. Like Tamil Nadu is at 54, Andhra Pradesh at 45, Telangana at 43, Karnataka at actually 69. So the problem with all of these values when they go very low is the requirement to also look at what we call the confidence intervals for these figures. And that tells you that when we actually look at a number like 45 or 19 or 69 or anything, how low the lower confidence interval tells you, the value at the lower end tells you how low it could be, and the higher one tells you as how high it could be. And oftentimes we have a tendency to look at these values in terms of the actual numbers, ignoring the confidence intervals. And if you look at the confidence interval for India, where the figure is 97, it is between 88 and 106, which is very narrow compared to what the confidence interval for Kerala is, which is 0 to 42. And that is something we should always take into consideration when we look at any value, like particularly like the maternal mortality rate. Because in most countries, and India is no exception, the maternal mortality is a rare event. While death is not as much of a rare event, maternal death is a rare event compared to the total deaths. And that's also something we need to keep in mind. So, while yes, Kerala does have very low maternal mortality rates, we need to always look at that. And yes, declining birth rates do contribute to a slightly heightened figure for the maternal mortality ratio that we are seeing. We always need to interpret it along with the confidence intervals.
Tell us why the confidence interval for India is narrower and for Kerala is wider.
For India, you have deaths from all over India contributing, and the fertility rates and the total numbers from all over India contributing to the overall rates. But if you slice that to smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller bits, what happens is, see, if I was to take a piece of cake, okay, and cut it into smaller and smaller pieces, the more number of pieces I make, the chances of your get, the chance that you could have got a bigger piece of cake or the chance that you could have got a smaller piece of cake actually varies in terms of how smaller and smaller I cut it, right? Correct. So the confidence interval for India is the bigger cake, very big cake where we slice, we haven't cut it at all. So if 1% where you have one figure where the confidence intervals are more robust because a large number of values, numbers contribute to the numerator and the births contribute to the denominator. So you have a more robust estimate. But when you take that and slice it, you are never quite sure how much what the numerator is going to be. And Kerala contributes a very small number to that numerator. Then the births, Kerala's fertility is also declining. Okay. And when we count those births and the number of deaths that are going to occur among those births, it's going to be a very small number. Now, when you compute that ratio, the problem that happens is that the last year how many births happened, this year how many births happened, is not something that is independent. You understand? See, if a woman has given birth last year, it is highly unlikely that she will give birth this year. It probably will happen only next year, right? There will be a gap of, because there is something that the woman's body recovers to enable her to get pregnant. There are different medical terms for that. So the birth rates, when the birth rates fall down very low, fluctuate wildly in, and the range in which it fluctuates is also very narrow, but it fluctuates. That is part of, how reality is with any population. So, Kerala's birth rates will fluctuate and they will be, going between 4 lakh and 3.9 lakhs, and then it may go to 4.1 lakh. That kind of fluctuation is normal. And therefore, it's also important to look at trend in the declining mortality rates for Kerala, which the Kerala government has actually talked about. No? So in Kerala, we have had in the COVID times figures close to something like what was it? In 2021-22, there was a slight increase in the maternal mortality rates. That was like 51. But after that, it has been uh, not 51. What was this? Yeah. And then it has become 28 and 32 for 2022-23 and 23-24. And the total number of deaths was 220 in 2021 and 118 in 2022-23 and 119. So you see the numbers are a very narrow margin. You understand? Hello? Absolutely. Yes. So, given the numbers, and any slight change in the number of births will make these numbers seem very different. What we need to focus on is when the numbers are very low, what it means is maternal death is already a rare event. Fertility rates are also going to be fluctuating because, the TFR for Kerala is 1.5 according to SRS. So Kerala's is gone way below replacement level of 2.1, and that is also, I mean, like for a very long time, it's been below replacement. So instead of, making a lot of sound about the decline or noise about that whether it has gone up or down, we know that maternal deaths are a rare event in Kerala. We need to start focusing more on the causes, no?
Correct. That's true. So rather than focusing on the numbers per se, focus on how to bring down these rare events and make them even rarer. Got it.
We have to make every death count. We have to ensure that that death is not repeated for another woman. And that is when it is a rare event, that's exactly what we should be doing, because rather than getting hypersensitive about something like, it was 19 and now it became 22, we need to worry about every death and see how we can avoid it.
Thank you, Professor. That was a very comprehensive explanation. Talk to us a little bit about, you said, of course, that Kerala has, its total fertility rate has gone way below replacement levels. This and Kerala led this demographic transition in South India, with the other South Indian states following. Why is this happening, and what impact will it have on societies?
See, Kerala has led the demographic transition in South India. I mean, when we were young students, Pathanamthitta district had zero population growth in the 91 census. I mean, that is the level at which demographic transition, I mean, it started way back in the 90s. All other states in Kerala are going the same way. That's also true. But this is inevitable. This is inevitable when you look at the nature of the economies of southern India with higher levels of GDP compared to some of the North Indian states. With improving economic status now, you need to pay attention to how people start valuing their lives. There are aspirational values that go up. People start to aspire for better lives for themselves and even better lives for their children. And one way, and this has been documented in the southern states from the early 200s, from 2001 publications, we've been talking about all this in South India. So people tend to, if you have 100 rupees and you need to eat something better for yourself, you will ensure that you alone eat, right? You don't invite four people and then try to distribute the 100 rupees to 25 rupees if you're looking for something like a masala dosa and a vada which cost 67 plus 18 plus a little bit of coffee. So you will not spread yourself thin, and in which case you will only get what we call the dry bun and a cup of chai. That is precisely what families did in the southern part of India. They had better aspirations for their children. They knew they had to invest in education. So they decided to have lesser and lesser children. The other side of that story is that, infant mortality has declined, has a child mortality also in um, the southern states in a relatable manner. If you can think of, our grandmothers, they had children like, 8, 6 to 8 to even 11, but about 4 or 5 of those children survived up to their old age. You look at our mothers, they had 2 to 3 children, and we are all alive up to their old age. Now, when you realize that our children have lesser exposure to their mothers losing children, the consequence of that is they don't need to make adjustments for any child deaths they are going to have. So they are going to have lesser and lesser children because they are assured that their children are going to survive. Now, in combination, what this means is the southern states, women and men have higher aspirations. They have the means to ensure the survival, and therefore they will have lesser and lesser children. And because what they want, they all people have aspirations, but the declining child mortality also enables them to feel a certain control over their lives in terms of affecting their choices, and that makes a big difference. And definitely southern economies are contributing. If you look at the way the discourse has shaped, no, many people have talked about how southern states have to have more children because of the declining fertility. Why did the fertility decline in the first place? It declined because of both aspirational values and the health sector contributing to decline in child and infant mortality in these states. So this is the logic behind, declining fertility globally and in India, state after state. It's not something new, and it is not, what can I say, rocket science. We've known this.
Does migration also play a part when it comes to Kerala in the sense of a lot of people moving abroad or moving to other parts of the country?
Yes, partly it does, but it's about, if you look at various estimates, out of 37 million or odd numbers, it's about 4 to 5 million. Okay, so it will contribute to declining fertility rates because now the way fertility has to be managed will be different. But what this, this fear that populations in India will rapidly decline as a consequence of, or particularly southern India, we've always had redistribution, population redistribution to address this, and that you have seen throughout, the 2011, and in this period, everywhere you see labor migration as a part of our reality, right?
Correct. Let's talk a little bit more about that, Professor. As you said, some concerns, especially post the census dates being announced and the concerns over delimitation, there have been some concerns about declining fertility in the South. Has any country anywhere in the world managed to successfully reverse this? And is this something that should even be considered in our country, where, as you said, internal migration and population redistribution takes place?
Population, no country, I can tell you that from my, understanding from way back in the 70s, no, history tells us that certain Eastern European states looked at their declining fertility and tried to restrict access to abortion. The fertility rate went up for just a year and a half or two at the most. Women, when they made abortion illegal, found other ways to restrict fertility, but fertility did not go up. No country in the world has actually succeeded in increasing the fertility rates through any kind of policy intervention. The reason is this: most of the fertility decline, in spite, in India at least, it has been a concerted public effort through the National Family Welfare Program, starting from late 60s, with introduction of various means promoting contraceptive use and all of that. But largely, finally, who has to act to reduce fertility? It is couples, mostly heterosexual couples, choosing to have a child or not choosing to have a child. It is an individual choice. It What we are now seeing is the collective of individual choices made by men and women within families or whatever. So given that kind of structure, no, reversing this, you have women wanting to participate in the labor force. They have aspirational values for themselves and for their children. This is not a trend that, by announcing a few, what I really don't know what to call it, by offering some sops, you will not be able to reverse the trend. No country has.
So, how does it work in India? You were talking a little bit about internal migration in terms of labor from different parts of the states coming down south. How does that work? Does that help?
Yes, you see, it's already happening. And we do have population redistribution where economies are weak. People from those states are migrating either temporarily or gradually. You will see it become a more permanent trend, and more people will migrate to places where there are job opportunities. Still, we have job opportunities everywhere. This is going to be inevitable. A federal state country like India, no, which allows for this, I mean, we can go anywhere in India and live. That is a constitutional right within India. in almost all over India, we as Indian citizens can go and live anywhere and seek employment anywhere. What is what we actually see, the COVID exposed us to the limited, how shall I say, welfare concerns that most individual states have for the people from other states when they come as for labor migration. We need to ensure that citizenship rights are ensured, that you know if a person from another state, the federal setup, what the guarantees need to be, how shall I say, strengthened. And we need to ensure that people from other states, when they go to work elsewhere, they have same kind of opportunities for thriving as the citizen state natives have. And that will foster and enable us to overcome this thing in the short run, the problem of low fertility in the southern states in the short run, till we reach something what demographers call population stabilization, by which time I think the economy will take care of itself.
So right now, let's focus a little bit on the north. What the we know that South Indian states have reached below replacement fertility levels. What is going on in other parts of the country? How skewed is it in terms of how many states still need to achieve it?
See, I can't, give you a list of states, but for sure the EAG states, starting from Assam to Madhya Pradesh to many of the other states, need to will move towards replacement. Please do not imagine that they will not. They will for sure, because the same processes are going to hold in most of these states as they are, because from my limited micro studies, even in Bihar, aspirational values are phenomenal among men and women in most states. Therefore, what we need to ensure is supply chains, ensure that, these aspirations are fulfilled. The fertility in these places will definitely decline, and they will decline far more rapidly than the southern states. So, within the next 20, 30 years, you will see a convergence to almost similar rates and fluctuations across the whole of India.
So there is basically no need to be too concerned about the South Indian states population declining rapidly versus North India.
The concern is not about the fertility, it is about representational issues. And
Correct.
that is a
In the
political
parliament.
issue, it's not a demographic issue.
But that apart, what about the demographic issue of the aging population down south?
The aging population for sure needs attention, but you also need to realize that part of that aging question is a bit political. People are active, so we can redeploy and define. We have moves towards active aging in many states. We need to amplify these efforts to ensure, the population stays active and healthy for a longer time. We need policies that enable people to do that, even as we have targeted declining fertility. Aging is inevitable. To do that, healthy needs intervention. Aging is inevitable in any state.
Correct.
To do that in a healthy way is what we need to focus on.
So, interventions to ensure that our elderly population can function and be productive until perhaps a later age than what has been considered so far?
No, I would
Maybe
not
moving
say reproduce, but produce for, I mean, they can be active both economically and otherwise.
Yes. Perhaps moving retirement age is up, things like that.
You could think of those things. And that is also something which is a political choice, you see. And it's not an easy choice for any state, but we need to start thinking along those lines, because otherwise people still continue to contribute. You have to only look at Kerala's panchayats, which are strengthened by the presence of the aged population, which make a significant social contribution to the healthy democracies at grassroots levels. So, I mean, they are doing other things. They could also contribute economically, something we need to start thinking of.
The concern has been that India is growing old before it is growing rich. What is your position on that?
I actually don't know that um, collectively we are growing old. You understand? Because it's only a few southern states, and according to the census, the proportion of elderly would have only reached 11%. Certain other countries in the world are managing to, survive and do well for themselves. Um, with aging populations. So we need to, rather than worry, we will get rich in the long run. Who won't? But, we need to do it in a healthy way. We need to do it maintaining certain systems that have been put in place. And we need to do it with mutual consensus and respect. And that is the direction in which we should go, rather than worry about, did we get rich one day before we got reached the optimum aging population. We have to chug along and make sure that we carry everyone along with us. That is a larger task. That's a political task as much as it is a demographic task. We will age, but not at the kind of rates that you see in Japan, and that not that rapidly, because aging in Japan has been a post-war phenomenon. But it has to do with also the political choices Japan had made in the past and even now. In India, given the large size of the population and the benefit that we have from redistribution across states, we may starve off the inevitable kind of fears that you're having, and that only time will tell.
Thank you so much for speaking to us today, Professor Mala.
Thank you, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
In Focus will be back soon with analysis of the biggest news issues. In the meantime, you can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and other platforms. Just search for In Focus by The Hindu. We'll see you soon.